Welcome to the end of Chapter A, our ACT Standards Review section. So we have left a really tough problem, supposedly, and a word problem. So two of your favorites. Now, if you were actually, we were in class and we were conducting a normal lesson, I was up there in front leading you guys, I would torch you with this problem, number 5. But I'm going to be a nice guy. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. So what you might start thinking is, hey, the man said, if I got a less than, I'm supposed to write an and then I'm supposed to write another version of the problem. I'm supposed to switch this guy to a greater than. I'm supposed to switch this guy to a positive 35. And if you did that, you have to do the common denominator thing here. Long problem to solve, really hard problem to solve. But here's the thing. What happens if you plug a number in here? Eventually, you got to check it. And if you're going to check it, what's the absolute value due to a number? It makes it positive. And what would happen if you even take that 5 that's out front times that positive number? It'd still be positive. So how is a positive number ever going to be less than a negative 35? So we're trying to give you a heads up on what's the easiest of all absolute problems to do, even though it looks like it's the hardest one. But again, it's a memory thing. An absolute value cannot be less than a negative number. It's impossible. So the answer to this guy is no solution. But if you notice it, there's zero work to do, and it's done in 2 seconds. If you don't notice it, you're going to do a whole heck of a lot of work for no reason. Okay, now we do have to point this out as well, though. So let's say that that problem said absolute value is greater than negative 35. Well, again, an absolute value always produces a positive number. So how often, guys, is a positive number bigger than negative 35? And a positive is always bigger than 35, right? Negative 35. So this one, in this case, would be all real numbers. So that is tricky. That's a tricky concept. So if you ever see this guy set up with a negative number out here, you got to start thinking about it. So is it greater than or is it less than? Just ask yourself. Less than a negative? Impossible. Bigger than a negative? All the time. All right. So if you notice that, that becomes the easiest problem on a quiz or a test. If not, well, as they say, life is tough sometimes. All right, this word problem is kind of funky. Hypoglycemia, yeah, low blood sugar. I have high blood sugar. And, there's the high one. Are potentially dangerous with a person's blood sugar fluctuates more than 38 milligrams. So we're in an absolute value section. So you know what? We already know that we're going to write an absolute value. We know that we're going to write either one of these, or maybe with the equal to symbol on it. And we already know we're writing a number on the end here. But here's the thing, and if people would get this concept, it would make this absolute value thing so much easier. This number that's on the end represents how far on the number line you would be traveling, either right or left. So in that last problem, it said less than negative 35. Well, okay, that's a bad example because of the negative sign. But essentially what we're saying is 35 units to the left or 35 units to the right. So if you read through this problem, I hope it makes sense that that's that number, right? You can't go more than 38 high or you're in trouble, and you can't go more than 38 down or you're in trouble. So this guy right here has got to be the 38. So we're down to this, and we're down to trying to figure out which one of these to use. Well, if your level goes up more than 38, you're in trouble, right? So we want it to be less than 38. Okay, now by more than 38, if it goes up, you're in trouble. So it could be 38. I mean, we don't want to get it that high, but it could be equal to. So up to 38 is fine in either direction. So again, if you understand what that number at the end represents, then I think this word problem becomes a little bit easier. So here's another good tip for word problems. If you're confused, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, I get the 38 part, but what goes inside the absolute value? Well, let's just make up a number. So your normal level is supposed to be 88. Well, let's say your level's at 100. Well, how far are you off by? How far are you in danger? Well, if it's 100 and I'm supposed to be at 88, got to subtract these to figure that out, right? So really, we pretty much just have the answer. 100 I just made up. You don't know what the level is. If we subtract out the 88, then we're going to know how far we're off by. So that's what goes in here. X minus 88. So now even on the other end of that coin, if you went and said, all right, my level's at 50. Well, okay, if I subtract 88, I get negative 38. Well, we didn't want a negative sign, but, hey, what's an absolute value do to that? Makes it positive. And that's what this problem over here is doing. So, look at the example I just made up, and I just kind of made that up out of the blue. 50 would be really in danger, because if your level was 50, you are literally off by 38, and that's the max. So, hey, time to make a trip to the emergency room, I suppose. And speaking of trips to the emergency room, I hope your brain hasn't exploded by now trying to do Chapter A math. But the good news is we have come to the end of the section. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching.